Oh my goodness, we're back in the Power Moves Health Marketing Podcast studio, and I have a friend with me today. And if I could just think of one word that I want you guys to all kind of feel just from being in his presence, I want you to feel inspired. We've got Will Humphreys in the studio, who is the CEO of Virtual Rockstar and a bunch of other things. A practitioner, a father, a husband, a motivator, a coach, has a super cool story about how he even came to be, which I will let him tell his story. But he's right in front of me, fresh from a trip from Japan. Hi, Will.
Oh, Lauren, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be on this amazing show. I love what you're doing, and what a generous introduction. Thank you for that. It's so neat to be with people that raise you up. I am so grateful, and I'm hoping that as the listeners are tuning into this energy that we share, that they can just jump right in with us, because it's a gift.
Oh my goodness, right? And it's sometimes like connections like this, it helps you make solid business decisions. It helps you skip the hard part and stuff when you have people that you just kind of vibe with and uplift as well. That must remain. So,
Absolutely.
I got you, Will.
Okay, I love it. Well, let's jump in. I'm so excited to create value for your listeners, because I know they're taking time on treadmills or driving between work or all the crazy thing these healthcare entrepreneurs are doing.
Doing all the things, right? And the big part of our discussion is how to not do all the things.
Amen.
So you can take space that you need to as a health business owner to not feel overwhelmed, but to really focus on either yourself or the good work that you do or your family and all the other things. And as we are scaling our businesses, it's so important that we do it with precision. We do it with excellence, that we do it with thought and intention. And I know, Will, you kind of saw this gaping hole in the industry, for lots of health entrepreneurs. But tell us a little bit about, your background. You're a practitioner. Yes. He's got a really cool background, and how you kind of, happen to find this gaping hole that you've now filled.
Yeah. The best way to put it is, my passion, listeners, is to free you up. And the reason I know that is because as a healthcare entrepreneur myself, I will tell you that owning a healthcare company has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. The way I became a healthcare entrepreneur, first I started when I became a healthcare practitioner. I was 17. I was trying to impress a girl in El Paso, Texas on the Friday the 13th, and I was rock climbing without ropes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I took her to this mountain called the Mount Franklin Range there in El Paso. And it was 3 days before my senior year started. And I decided to take her mountain climbing. And I didn't use ropes. And I took her just to the very top of this particular climb that I had done before. She had gratefully made it safely over the top of the mountain, but the piece of the mountain I was holding on to peeled off. And I free fell 50 feet, 5 stories of a building, and broke both arms, both legs. I broke 26 bones.
Oh my God, Will.
In my body. And I laid there, I was totally conscious. Gratefully, nothing hit my spine or my head. So I laid there over the next 5 hours in El Paso, Texas on this Friday the 13th before a helicopter could come and the mountaineer rescue team could pull me into what started one of 15 surgeries, the most recent of which was just 2 years ago. I still am having surgeries. I'm almost 50 now. So at 17 years old, I had this rude awakening of the hardships of life. And during those 5 hours, Lauren, I will tell you, one of the most significant aspects of my journey was coming to know God. I knew I was going to die. And I got to come to this awareness of I remember praying, just going, hey, please, I'll be in a wheelchair, whatever you want me to do, just let me live. And so ever since, was really the beginning of this whole journey that we're going to talk about today, was the fact that it became very clear to me at a young age that all of us have, whether it's God or the universe, whatever it is for us, there's a higher power, whatever higher power is, there's a divine purpose in each of us that exists. And so for me, I didn't know what it was, but I was obviously, as I was starting to have surgeries, being very mindful of what was happening to me as every day now is an absolute gift. I should have died. And the day everything changed for me was this particular day. About 3 months after I fell, I was finally discharged home, and I had this physical therapist come to the door. And Connie Clemens is her name. She came bounding in to my bedroom, which was the living room of my house, converted into our bedroom because it took so many people to roll me over or to put me on a bedside commode.
It's terrible.
It was so humbling. But yet, I knew, I mean, every day was like, oh my gosh, I'm alive and I'm going to get at one point 100% better. Who'd have thought? Like, I mean, so she comes bounding in, but I was dreading the day that Connie Clemens came because my physical therapy experience in hospitals was horrible. She came bounding in, 5'0" nothing. I thought she was super old at 42 years old. And now I'm
Oh
almost
my
50.
God. That's
I
how
know.
old I am. Thanks.
Well,
Will. Yeah, Will.
little 17-year-old Will thinks anyone older than 30 was ancient. So
You're ancient, yeah.
she came bounding in and she like was so full of positive energy that I hated her guts immediately. And then she put a gait belt on me and stood me up for the first time and I passed out. And this is where everything changed. I came to and she was leaning over me, just smiling ear to ear, going, hey, Will, you passed out, but you did so good.
Oh, Will.
Yeah. That moment, Lauren, was this personal connection between a healthcare provider to a patient that has completely shaped who I am because that emotional impact through the physical treatment completely shifted my existence. And I decided right then to become a PT. And so that's what I did. I started, first day of college was prereqs for PT school, became a PT, started a practice a year out of school because I knew I wanted to control that experience. And believe it or not, that's when I learned how hard it is to own a business. That was worse.
So you were what, in your mid-20s? Like, because how did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur? Was it always in your blood, in your background? Yeah. Okay.
Entrepreneurship for me was very clear. My dad was a failed businessman. He had started and failed multiple companies, but it was something that I think when you're exposed to the worst end of it, it takes the fear out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my story too. Yeah,
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask what is that?
Yeah, so no, my dad, he's a multipreneur in many ways, but I never saw him thriving. I never ever saw him where he had multiple companies. That he had to wind up closing. And I was always his little helper, writing his marketing plans and doing his things. But I knew what I didn't want, as a example of seeing my dad's struggles. Yeah. And I think my dad would want me to be better than him anyway. Right.
And it sounds like he was such a loving man, like my dad, in the sense that it's almost like I'm succeeding for him too.
Yeah. Yeah. And my dad had group homes, bro. Like how you have to love it for kids.
Wow.
So displaced children. Yeah. Like he was a big lover and provided housing. He would buy houses and subsidize housing for people that he knew couldn't afford it, but needed the care. So it was a very, very personal, but it was hard to make that thing scale or really provide in the way that he wanted. So, he was always working his corporate thing too. But yeah, like I wish that I had better examples, but I'll tell you one thing, seeing him struggle, again, like I said, it's like, hey, this is for you too, Pops.
And it takes the fear out of it, right? Like for me, it's so funny because I have the fears I'm sure that every entrepreneur has. It's not that I don't have them, but like I lived in a home where we lived off my mom's teacher salary. And we were from the time I was 15, I had to buy my own stuff because literally my parents were like, hey, I'd love to buy this to you, but we don't have the means. And now I wasn't afraid to start into the entrepreneurial space, answering your question, but it didn't make it easier. Like I will tell you this, I've learned the hard way that healthcare entrepreneurs, we have some of the most unhealthy relationships of any entrepreneurs when it comes to money and time.
Oh man, who you telling?
Yeah. And what's interesting is having been on that side for so many years where it's like, well, if I'm not treating patients, then I'm not working. And if I'm not, working as hard as I can and sacrificing, there's an actual mindset they call the healer mindset in psychology. And it's all about this like powerful gift that most healthcare entrepreneurs have of being able to serve their population, but they also lack boundaries. This is true for me, they have an unhealthy set of boundaries of taking care of themselves. And they're constantly thinking about feeling shame about what they're not doing for their own family or themselves. And so it creates this mix match. And so I almost walked away. This is a true story. I almost walked away from my business. It was 4 years in and it was
physical therapy business.
So I had an outpatient practice in Florence, middle of nowhere, Arizona.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. If you're going to prison in Hawaii, you're going to Florence.
Oh, that's what it feels like?
No, literally. If you're in Alaska, there's 18 prisons and some of them are private. So if you're long-term going to jail and you're from Hawaii or Alaska, you come to Arizona.
What?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, it's wild.
That's funny. Well, it's not funny, but yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, I have so many fun stories for
I was
another
gonna say.
podcast of escaped inmates or me treating inmates who are like talking about escaping. I've been in that, I was in that world for 15 years where I was treating and I loved it. I mean, my treating was my heart. And so what I couldn't handle was all these things I was never taught on how to
Yeah.
run a business.
Uh-huh.
And that was where like I started having heart palpitations to a degree where an electrocardiologist told me, he's like, hey, you need a pacemaker because you're having thousands
Oh
of
my God.
cases a day and this is not resolving with medication. So I ended up deciding I was going to quit and walk away. And my wife was very sweet and supported that. But she said, before you leave, why don't you just get a coach and start joining a network? And this is before podcasts were really a thing. Like this is a show that would be part of that solution for me if it had existed when I was, back in the early 2010s. But so I started getting a coach, just like give it one last shot. And that shifted everything. It changed how I related to money. It changed how I related to time and work. And I went from one location to 5 physical locations, working less than 10
Wow.
hours a week. Yeah, it was very powerful because I had a coach once tell me that the most beneficial gift we can have or talent we can ever have as entrepreneurs is being trainable.
Oh gosh, yes. Coachable, trainable.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Mark that.
so as a coach, you get that, right? When we have clients who are coachable and willing to take action, there's nothing they can't do. So that's what happened. I was in that mode of not being naturally good at things, but being coachable. And we went to 5 locations and I sold in 2018 for almost $10 million, which was great.
Oh my gosh, Will.
Oh,
That's congratulations.
thank you.
That's a big deal. And you started it so young.
I did.
And
So I sold at 42. I sold when I was a whippersnapper at your age.
oh, I know. That means mine is coming soon, Lord.
That's right. That's right. And so it was funny because, after that, when I sold, I just kind of thought that would be it. But I have doubled down in the healthcare space. And
Yeah.
since that time frame, my passion has been freeing up entrepreneurs. And that's been my greatest joy, is being able to see the best people on the planet, in my opinion, men and women who are dedicated to healthcare, being able to make their impact and have their freedom and their income that they deserve.
That's why you and I vibe so much. And because like even for me, you're not a practicing practitioner anymore, and in no way am I. But it's a calling of sorts when you know that it's a gift you have to help healers live the life of abundance that I believe that they all should. The good healers, the ones that they know that it's a calling for them. And I'm grateful for people like you for, just even having the insight, thought process, or desire to help this group of people, which is in many ways underserved by us. They're abused by us, by patients and clients, and, the constraints of running a business and, trying to be the leader for everybody. So, that's we serve the same people.
Well, and here's the thing about this, Lauren, and I really want you to hear this, is that what really is the most important aspect of the people who are listening to the show and what connects us is this thing called healing. Healing is at the core of it. Certifications are very useful, like MD, PT, whatever. Those are very useful, but you are, in my opinion, and in all definitions, a healer. So we are healers. Your dad, for example, what you were exposed to growing up and having him model charity in action, that's what I think is at the core of every healer. And so our strengths and our weaknesses parallel. And I think that's probably why you were drawn to this group of healers, is because you are one of us and vice versa. We are, it takes a village. All of us need each other to grow, to overcome. And that's been the greatest. My kids ask me, Lauren, this is true. They say, what's the best business advice you could ever give anyone? And this is honestly my opinion. Your network is your net worth.
Absolutely. Put it on the t-shirt, 100%.
Nothing else matters more in the business world, in any aspect of life, than having a network of human beings that you can rise together with and overcome. And so, yeah, healers are their own tribe. We all come together, whether, and some of us have degrees and certifications actually in the healthcare space, but some don't.
Some don't.
And but they're here to help each other heal the world. And that's a wonderful thing when there's boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
And when we have those, like, when we have that mindset of
Yeah.
like taking care, putting the oxygen mask on ourselves before we do on the air, anyone else on the airplane kind of mentality,
Yes. You
very
have
huge.
huge. I love that metaphor. You got good metaphors today. Y'all missed the early one. He said he was hot as the knife with butter. And
Well,
I forgot what I
I,
just said.
I meant I felt as effective as a knife through butter, not as attractive as a hot knife through butter. I'm just kidding.
But it could have been both. It was hilarious. So I'm loving these. I'm loving these metaphors. Yes, like practitioners, in order for you to get your message out, to heal the world, you have to have income that aligns with your impact. Those things have to be synergetic. And as Will so eloquently said, you have to put the airbag thingy on you first before
Yeah.
you before you serve other people. And so you've been able to grow a business, exit it,
Mm.
and now you're in this fun space of helping practitioners thrive. What are all the ways that you help practitioners have income in it and impact?
Thank you for that. So first and foremost, before I go into this, I'm going to talk to you about just 5 seconds, the main thing that I do, because when I talk about everything I'm involved in, it gets confusing for people. They're like, wait a minute, what do you do?
Stay on the train, y'all.
Right.
Ride
So
the train.
just remember, my purpose and passion is to free you up. And the reason being is because I've learned that profitability, like you said, Lauren, it's that profitability that matters, because profitability unlocks possibility. And profitability isn't just a financial term. It's the exchange that we have with our companies, with ourselves, with our clients, our family members, our spouses, like being profitable in those relationships. The currency changes. Sometimes it's actual money, but other times it's connection. Other times it's healing. So as we're going through that, that's the main thing. The main thing I've been doing for the last number of years are virtual assistants who are specialized in the healthcare space to free people up. And that happens, that's the end result of what's happened over the last 7 years since I sold. So that company has been around for 3 years and is the fastest growing. I have over 100 clients just in the last year who've joined my company. We have hundreds of VAs in the Philippines that I go visit personally. And most of them are healers themselves. These are nurse practitioners or, physical therapists, or you even have some MDs, kid you not, who are.
Wow.
It's amazing what we have over there. And the entire way I've built it is to help any healthcare entrepreneur free up their time. So whether it's a personal assistant who does their social media, or whether it's someone answering the phones for the clients. Most people are kind of leery to the idea of being outsourced overseas. And that's why it was really important to me that we have a proprietary process that builds this out for people to where we've never once in our years of experience had somebody tell us that the accent of their employee caused any problems for them whatsoever.
I love that, because you know how judgy we are over here, honey.
Absolutely.
You have an accent that it's almost like it takes the education level down or something. Like, what are you talking about? I'm enchanted by accents. but honestly, it sucks. That's a pain point that you have to solve. But yeah, people are a little bit, icky about that.
It's true. Our clients, and we deal with older populations, so they're a lot less tolerant of those things, which is not okay, but at the same time, it's not a problem either.
You gotta adapt though. Adapt and evolve. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other companies I have, the way that the VA thing started though, is I immediately built my concept. The first thing out of selling my business, Lauren, I went to Europe with my wife and 4 boys, and we lived overseas without work for 6 months.
Oh, praise God. Amen.
Yeah. Total gift. And without going, this will be another episode maybe, but that trip was a gift from God and absolutely saved my oldest son's life.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll go into that in more detail another time, but essentially there was healing after that entrepreneurial journey. Like the last 2 years of owning that 5-location PT business was a total, it was as great as it sounds. Like we were more profitable than ever. I wasn't working very much and it was growing and scaling. The reason I sold was because I always knew my heart was to help the healers like you. Like that was my thing. I'm like, I don't want to have 100 locations. Some of my friends continued on and they now have over 100 locations across the country. They're being purchased for more money than anyone could dream of. And I just don't even feel like I've missed out because of where you and I align with your listeners of we're here to help those wonderful people heal themselves. So when I went to Europe, there was a healing that occurred literally in the case that saved my son's life. And then when I came home, I was an open book. All I knew is I wanted to help healthcare entrepreneurs. And there's this concept from Dan Sullivan that's called who, not how.
Oh, I quote that, honey, every day.
That should,
I am not trying to do anything. My husband says I use it too much because, I'm trying to outsource the dishes. I'm outsourcing raising children. I don't want to know. I'm kidding.
I actually believe that book should be incorporated like the Bible. It should be like a new chapter in the Bible, because who, not how is at least a methodology of like just thinking about growth.
It's a mindset. Absolutely.
Mindset. So when I came back, I was like, I don't even know where to start. I just want to help people. And my old biller who used to work in my company, she was available. So we started a medical billing company called In the Black. And that was the first company I started in 2020, literally the month that COVID hit. And it was the best business to start in that period because patients weren't coming into clinics. They were looking for other ways to get money, and they were looking at cleaning up their accounts receivable. So they came to our billing company and we exploded.
Nice. Very smart.
So I still own that company, but we have we've been pseudo acquired by another company that has now taken that operationally. But what was interesting about that, Lauren, was during those years of running the business, I started hiring a company to help me hire people overseas to help me balance out my team.
Gotcha.
And my greatest professional talent is recruiting. That's the thing I do best. I recruit. That's my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
So I got tired of using a company when I knew I could do it better. So I set myself up legally in 2021 to just hire people from overseas and built a team of hundreds of VAs.
Nice.
And I loved it. It was so fun. I just fell in love with the group. And then I have two other companies. I won't even go into detail what they were because they're coaching companies. But those clients were like, hey,
I need this.
Yeah, tell me about how those VAs work. And I was like, no, I'm too busy. I've got 3 companies. I'm not starting a 4th company. This is ridiculous. But they begged. And I was like, wait a minute. No one's ever done that where they're like, please, we'll give you money.
Yeah, I mean, that's like everybody's dream.
I know.
Let's all manifest that right now.
Well, it's just funny because, again, God for me was telling me, hey, do this thing. And I'm like, no. And then finally I'm like, okay.
You got hit over the head with some money.
He did. And I tried it out for 2 months, and those clients had been billing clients. They had been coaching clients on recruiting. I coached people on how to sell their practices. So all these clients were like, that was the best thing you've ever done for us. And so since that time, this was a couple of years ago, I just went all in on the VA company. I still own 4 entities. I have CEOs running those companies, and I've been 100% dedicated to Virtual Rockstar. So it's been awesome.
Oh gosh. And so you work with multiple specialties though. Is it just physical therapists or
No.
what types of folks do you work with?
Yeah. So PTs are half of the business. That's because, you
Who you are.
grow where you're planted. So I have orthopedic surgeons. I have dentists. I have, you name it. We have them. We have just about every family physicians. We've got healthcare outpatient in particular, solopreneurs and outpatient are 2 areas that we're really good at. So if someone has brick and mortar, that is the world I know really well, but I'm also a solopreneur myself. So we know how to build out the social media, personal assistant side of things, all of that. So we've got people who use VAs for bookkeeping, for anything marketing, reception, all the things. It's been awesome.
How did you grow it? It's like you just know that many people, you just send out a blast text message, because honestly, and then, I feel like with marketing, I always change my statistics, but I do believe it is 80% woo-woo, your heart and soul and spirit, who you are, how intentional you are, what you manifest, and then 20% marketing, analytics and data. But what did you do? Because this is your numbers are beyond what people dream of, and maybe 10 years to build a company. So
yeah, I've been very fortunate for 2 reasons. The first is that it is the second fastest growing trend in healthcare next to AI, which anyway, I don't know if you've talked about.
We've already we're marrying our businesses with AI.
Okay. I didn't know if you talked about what you're doing, but you're doing something that is by far the most exciting thing for healthcare in my world as it will parallel what we're doing with VAs. But VAs is the second fastest growing trend next to what you're doing. So that's a big part of it. The second part of it though was all this time I spent after I sold my first company. Those 4 other companies that I started, I will tell all of you listening, I didn't really know if that's what I was supposed to be doing. I was building around who, not how, but I never felt super confident that this would be the thing. As a matter of fact, my billing partner, I told her, I said, I'm going to partner in this, but this isn't what I'm going to do forever. This is a way for me just to serve the population. So what I did right accidentally was I got busy serving people in ways that they were just needing help in. And the billing company wasn't super profitable. It has evolved into something pretty amazing. But like for 4 years, guys, I was making like 50 grand a year. And so I've spent more money than I've made for those first 5 years after I sold, while I was like, just kind of like in a real effort trying to find myself. And then this thing hit me over the head 2 or 3 years ago. So the reason I say all this is because I grew fast because God was working through me to serve the population. I had over 300 businesses in my book of business before I launched the VA company. So
okay.
I wasn't super profitable with them, but but I was doing a good job serving them with my teams.
Mm-hmm.
They knew, liked, and trust me. So when I came out to them and I said, hey, I've got VAs now who wants help. Half the population in PTs are like the most backward, honestly. I love those guys, but they're the most like, well, that's too
I work with
crazy.
dentists. Like, come on. What are you talking about? I work with surgeons and dentists. Like, okay, you guys are fine.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in this similar boat because most people are like, so it's not like PTs were like, oh, I want to try a VA. They were like, but they knew that I wouldn't bring something to the table that wasn't good for them. So that's why I've grown fast. I think it was all those, I say this to the listener who feels like they're busy spinning their wheels and they just haven't really found the thing that's really driving them outside of patient care. A lot of healthcare entrepreneurs are feeling called to do something really powerful, and they get real kind of beat up. Like, I'm getting older. I haven't really made the difference I feel like I'm called to make. And what I'll say is I look backwards and I go, wow, all those years of spending more money than I made, building these things paid off overnight, literally, where I am confident in the change I'm here to make.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows profitability wise, that company has exploded. And we've had 3 offers to buy it. I'm never gonna
already.
I have.
Oh my gosh,
3.
Will.
People have approached me saying, hey, I want to buy this and help you grow it. I'm like, no, I got it. We're good. I'm never selling this company. This is I will sell it to the employees. I'll sell it to the Filipinos.
That's what I love. I love it when CEOs do stuff like that, where, when they exit, they give shares to everybody or whatever. I love that. Go ahead, Will.
Because that's the biggest change we're making. It's so funny. I personally feel so connected to the solopreneur or entrepreneur who's like Will. I mean, I never get thanked. I've never gotten thanked for what I do more than I do now because people are like, wow, this has freed me up. This means the most to me. But it's so small compared to the financial impact on these Filipinos. Here's my secret sauce, Lauren.
Okay.
We pay our Filipinos as much as we can instead of as little as we can.
Kudos to you for that, because I hear some numbers out there that don't make sense, and I don't know what the conversion rate is with dollars and stuff, but I'm like, good gracious, I hope that these folks are making a living. Like, we don't know how the money converts, and we never know, is $5 an hour okay? Like,
Yeah, I will tell you this. I'll give you the exact numbers, and this is me pulling back the curtain transparently of how I operate. But like the way this industry works, and I'm not villainizing anyone who's doing this, because the average Filipino makes less than $1 an hour already.
Wow.
So in the Philippines, and the reason we stick to the Philippines, people go, why the Philippines? Their culture has been primed to work with the United States culture for decades, more than any overseas country, more than South America, more than like Africa, Vietnam. These are individuals who are truly culturally American, and they have arguably better English. And a lot of companies like mine are getting out of the Philippines because they are making more and more as their economy is improving.
Yeah, yeah.
But I am doubling down in that space. The average Filipino works for a company like mine will make $1 to $3 an hour. If they're lucky, they'll make between $3 to $5 an hour. We start our employees at $7 and go all the way to $10.
Oh, that's awesome.
And our charge is only $12 to our client. So most of the time you'll see, get the VA for $8. And it's like, but they're paying them $1. We run a 20% margin. Transparency is a big value.
That's smart, and it just is what it is. Yeah,
it just is what it is, because I want as much. 20% is enough to weather a bad storm. It's enough for me to make our margins to be profitable, to pay my American team what they need, as well as my Filipino leadership team. But at the end of the day, I want those Filipinos who are working for my medical clients to be making so much money that it's like they're never going to leave, and they show up like it's changing their lives. And that's why another reason I think we've had so much success is because we just pay more. And we have systems. After a year, all of our Filipinos get health money to cover their healthcare and retirement. So I'm building a movement in the Philippines, and we for every application we get over 250 responses. So for every time a job is submitted, we have over 250. It's becoming this cool thing in the Philippines to work for Rockstar. So I think that's why we've been able to grow, is because those types of elements combined with the fact that it's just a fast growing trend.
And this is what you're supposed to be doing.
I can't stop talking about it. I know I'm talking almost excessively about it, but I literally, it warms my heart in a way that nothing else has, except for the day that Connie Clemens stood over me.
She stood over you and,
Yeah.
she said you did a good job.
Yeah.
And honestly, that I told you all, if you don't leave feeling inspired in some way to make a change in your own business, to see how you can free up more time to maybe make your best next step, because we've had multiple businesses that we've talked about, listen up. This is just so inspiring. And I know a deeper part of what you do, because in other times that we've talked, you talk about creating freedom through profitability.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. Why, going back to what we're saying, most practitioners they don't have money on the forefront. They are, very careless at times with their time and with their money. And this is a gap that we want to fix, especially for the folks that have the big audience and the big presence, and they need to grow and scale. Like this is a big deal on the micro to the macro level. So, like, what's that? Talk to us about your method of that, creating freedom through profitability through your service.
Absolutely. So every person, when we first talk to them, it's about analyzing what they need in terms, and sometimes they don't see what they need. Like most of our clients are just kind of calling to find out about virtual assistants because they're starting to hear about it from everybody. So they're called just like, what is this whole thing about? But the bigger movement behind that is what you just described. And so I have a school group called Free You Up, where people can come and we talk about the mindset of change. We talk about books that really shift that mindset, like Buy Back Your Time, which, by the way, I'd be happy to purchase a copy of that book for any of your listeners. If you want to, yeah, of course. If you guys want a copy, let me know. I'll send you a copy. It's not me.
It's not going to be you. So we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the show notes. Will, you're awesome.
Yeah, but I think it's, when it comes to profitability, it starts with our teams, and our time. So when we look at this concept of time as an exchange and recognizing that the experience of time changes as we are spent doing the things that we do. So for example, if I'm very passionate about something like on your show, I just looked up right now, I can't believe we've already been on the show for 30 minutes.
I know, it's like we're in space, but yes.
So that's the place we want to constantly live in. And, for many of us, we get there at times, but there's these big chunks of things that we just don't want to do. When we're in that space where we're finding ourselves being dragged down or slowed down, that is when we should think to ourselves, who can take this from me?
Mm-hmm.
Like anything we're almost conditioned by our parents to think that, yeah, you have to just do the sucky stuff to deal with the good stuff. No, that's so silly. Those are the things that are preventing us from being maximally profitable. So whatever it is that we're doing, and I want everyone listening to think of, like, when I ask this question, listener, what are the first three things that come to mind? What is it that you do that you hate doing? Does anything come to your mind, Lauren?
Oh my God. Well, I'm going to be thinking about work. I'm thinking about laundry, clothing. I told you I was talking about the real things, but and I do have somebody that does that for me.
Okay.
So, I had to outsource. It was a source of anxiety and stress, seeing clothes piled up, not things color coordinated or arranged by color and season. I know I sound extremely bougie right now, but there's a point to this. The money that I make while she's doing all of that folding and laundering and whatever, I 10x the amount that I pay her, because and then the secondary benefits of low stress and anxiety surrounding that thing that I hate.
So you just perfectly encapsulated the answer I was trying to give you, which is this idea of, like, how do I help people maximize their profitability through this thing called delegation. And you just hit it so hard on the head, because when I ask that question, most people don't think of business things. They think of laundry. They think of dishes. They think of meal prepping, because those are the things that we absolutely have to do all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so this idea of, like, I could never give that to somebody else is such a scarcity mindset, because we think we're being charitable by thinking I don't want to give my crap to somebody else to deal with. Well, that's the weirdest thing that we learn in that book, Who Not How, is that there's nothing that we can't hate that somebody else won't love. So if there's something we hate doing, there's somebody else who actually loves and would want more of that. So
that's how the world functions.
Literally.
We absolutely need everybody to do all the different things to keep the world functioning. So hand off the laundry, sis.
Yeah. Network is your net worth again. Like, this is that concept of like building who's to do everything that we don't want to do. But like, that starts with us like taking boundaries as healers, to recognize that it starts by putting that oxygen mask on, by being clear on what drains us. And so, at work, that is going to be an easy question. And there's the VA solution is, I think the reason I love it so much is because it's such an easy thing for me to do with my experience to help my clients get those things resolved. But it's a bigger concept than that. The VA thing is very small relative to this concept of like profitability unlocks possibility. When we are willing to take a stand for the things that we love, then we are able to let go of those things that we don't, which are things that other people love. And then with all that shared growth, we're happier, we have more time and freedom. And then we start to think in that new space of what's possible. And I promise everyone who's listening, what's possible is so much more than we could ever imagine at this current state. I never dreamed about living in Europe for 6 months with my kids. I was a PT that was wanting to walk away from his practice 10 years before that. I never dreamed I'd be in a position where I'm talking to you on a podcast now. Like, it's just this idea of like, I think we're almost doing a disservice to the people who love us by holding on to the things that don't serve us.
Low value tasks. There are things where we absolutely can be more profitable doing something else.
Yeah.
When I handed off my email, Will, good Lord, it's like the sun was shining a little brighter. When I handed off captions on Instagram, because I was always the bottleneck to me being consistent on social media. And I did not believe that somebody else could write like me or do my captions. Of course, with AI, the belief that somebody else can do it, because most of us will just stop right there.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else can. But, just having the power to delegate and know how to delegate. A lot of people, are scared to delegate. How do you coach people up? Because the pain point exists. They just may not be ready to do you push people over the edge? Do you coach them up? Like, what do you say? Just, I'm here when you're ready.
Man, you are such a good interviewer. So this is, okay,
let me mark that.
Yeah, because here's the thing, audience. Many of you are listening to this going, yeah, but I don't have the confidence in that. Like you just said, how do you
get it started?
So here's the truth. None of us, especially in the healthcare space, have ever been trained on how to oversee people. Like, the way it works from an MD down to an RN, for example, like that's not the same relationship as when you're building a team, when you're recruiting and retaining talent. Here is the number one secret to effective delegation. And this is going to sound a little cliche, but this is absolutely the truth. Read about it in Brandon Smart's book, Top Grading, or anything else. When you start with the best people, everything else becomes exponentially easier.
That's a fact.
So when you start with better people, it requires less systemization. It requires less organization. So this is a true example of this. We have gotten very good at hiring. And so not just for our clients, but for ourselves. So a year ago, I recognized that I loved doing marketing for my company, but I recognized that like someone else would probably do it better. And where I'm really getting a lot of energy is in a different space. So we decided, let's find that who. And we went through that process. That process we've never been trained on. This is why I love doing what I do, because I do this for my clients. I go out there and I source the candidates based on these in-depth interviews with our clients and what they need and what they really need. Then we go find their best person. It's almost like a matchmaking service. It feels very similar to like bringing people who are looking for love. You're connecting it in that way. And so we went to the marketing world and I found Abby. And Abby joined the team at one of the craziest like growth spikes in my business. And so normally I would be with her and do all the things and hand her off. I literally, like on her first day, I would never do this normally. I was like, Abby, I don't have time. I know you're the right fit. Can I just give you lots of space and trust? And can I just give you all the logins that you want? And like, you just figure it out for me. Yeah. And so this is an extreme example, but just to kind of paint that picture of like, how do you help people? because I started with the right person, she didn't need oversight at all. And most people aren't like that. Even most rock stars need better oversight than that. And I am pulling that back in now. But she took over my website SEO. She started developing email campaigns.
Yes.
She would jump on my calendar like, hey, you've got no time, so I just need you to approve these things. And all these little bits of information. And she created her own stats. She reported them to me every week. Hey, Will, we got 10 referrals last week based off of these efforts. I think you should keep pushing money on this. Do you approve? So think about that. Normally, so that's one extreme example. Now, what I do on the other hand is I do provide coaching and other support through Free You Up on School.
Okay, cool.
Where I have
school community, right?
Yes, where I will get on video calls and I have taught people how to build an organizing board, how to build command lines, communication structures.
Oh, nice.
Organizational health is something I spent a lot of money learning how to do, and I love helping entrepreneurs build that out. But it all is dependent on just the right person. So if you have the right person, you don't need as much to be successful. And then when you add those things later, then you free them up to really change the world for you. So yeah.
Well, we could literally talk about this for hours. I mean, just the whole concepts surrounding growth. And I'm going to have you back on the show. It just is what it is. So we'll do a part 2 where we can just kind of dive deeper into this. This is a symptom of people being stuck on a hamster wheel. There's a lot of you guys listening that are at that like peak part of growth. I always say right around 3 million, depending on the size of your business, around 3 million when you're trying to get to 5, that's when your systems start to break. Your technology stack isn't big enough for you. Your front desk person needs to be more elevated. There's all kinds of things for you to get to the next level. We want to make sure that on Power Moves, we're giving you tools and tangible things that you can do and to start thinking differently about the health and growth of your business. And Will, you have inspired us to think about just that. And what I want you to do, Will, is tell us where to find you, first of all, because we're going to put all of this in the show notes. And you have your own podcast, too. And I want them to be able to know where that is because we have an episode on there, too, together. So go ahead and tell us, Will, how we can...
Well, this is where you and I are siblings because Power Moves and my podcast is Willpower.
Willpower
Podcast and Power Moves. So Willpower, it's all about helping people take control of their worlds and create freedom for them. So to get a hold of me, just go to virtualrockstar.com. You can reach out to me through our website there. My email is will@virtualrockstar.com. But by all means, use my cell. I know you're not supposed to do this. I have VAs who are doing this. I'd prefer text, honestly. I have VAs who manage my texting for me. So it's 480-248-5119. Just send me a text. Let me know that you heard me on the Powers Moves podcast and that you'd like to learn more. And then if anyone wants a book, to text me. Just go, hey, I want a copy of that book. Send me a text. I have breadth of handling it because I have the right who's taking care of me. So I am so grateful to have been on this amazing show, Lauren. You're amazing.
You are amazing. You are as generous as you are inspiring. Thank you, Will. You guys make sure you check the show notes so you can get your copy of the free book and get on the text message line and all the things. Y'all, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Power Moves Health Marketing Podcast. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast everywhere the podcasts are available and on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm a nut over there, so make sure that you follow me over there. All right, until next time, you guys, abundance over you all. See you next week. Bye. Hey, y'all, thanks for tuning in to Power Moves Health Marketing Podcast. If you're ready to transform your practice with smarter strategies and cutting-edge tools, I want you to head over to microsite.com to book a strategy session with me and my team. While you're there, check out the show notes for links, resources, and my free Power Moves playbook. Remember, every move you make is a step toward becoming the health business leader you're meant to be. Let's keep building your momentum.